All right, guys. I'm just gonna go ahead and break down the 60% trade I had today for call. Um, London, we created this trend line here, which got this nice breakdown. Right. We then started consolidating here. Right. We took out some intermittent liquidity here. Got these buy stops, and then obviously got this massive knife here. When market opened. Right? I'm not necessarily trying to predict this breakout. So really off of this break of structure here is really where I started looking to take shorts, right? Back off of this kind of push down, I was looking for it to come back up and retest this area up here, potentially even getting this fair value gap up in here. But really didn't have clear entry or anything like that. We then continue to fall, right? Create another flag pattern here, another breakdown. And at this point, this is where I started to see this trend line form. And the reason I like using SPY sometimes for trend lines is because SPY is in penny increments. So usually trend lines can be a little bit cleaner on SPY. So this is the trend line right here that I was really watching. And what made this really clean is just the fact that you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's just a really well-respected trend line. Pretty obvious that retail is trying to trade this trend line, push it down. And then off of this break here, this break here is where I look to go long off of the trend line break like this, right? Not only that, but we also had this, liquidity here that then got grabbed to the downside really quick, and we got this impulsive move back up with just a smaller kind of breaking structure right here, right? So pretty good conviction that we're at least going to get somewhat of a pop to the upside. So off of this break to the upside, I'm looking to go long, and here's where I need to kind of evaluate where I want to take my entry, right? So what I generally do is, first of all, I'll draw my fibs out, top to bottom of the move, and you can see that we're underneath this 50% fib from top to bottom of this move. And then also I look at this relative low versus the relative high, also underneath the 50% fib. So really looking to get into those long positions underneath that 50% fib level. So then for my actual entries, I'm looking for fair value gaps as well as order blocks. So we did have this fair value gap here in the 1 minute. And then we had this order block here, right? This in green, bullish order block on the 1 minute as well. And so when I take a trade like this, my entry was right in this fair value gap here, right? Put my stop just below the swing low, right? So pretty small stop. So even though it looks like it kind of wicked down to this order block, that's completely fine. Only 36-cent stop. And then first target for this kind of a trade for me is usually just going to be the recent swing high. And then this swing high over here was the main TP. It's going to happen all at once. So really looking at a 2-to-1 risk to reward. So that's very, very solid for a trade like this, right? When we're in such a heavy downtrend, I'm not really looking if I'm looking at a trade that the setup occurs where I'm fading where it just happens to be that I'm fading the trend. I'm really not looking for a big move. I'm just looking for a quick kind of scalp trade where I can get in and out pretty quickly, take my gains. So this is this trend line liquidity. Always wait for this thing to get break to the upside, and then entry within this fair value gap. We did endure about what, like 20 cents of drawdown. But luckily, because I took options and I entered right as this was falling, I actually caught these contracts when they were kind of decreasing. So my entry was even a little lower that I alerted. Um, I believe entry was like 93 cents. Um, we took, let's see here, where it's so called it out 96. when I actually got my, because I always call it out right as I'm like basically pressing a button. That's what the button said at the time. I pressed, so I stopped the ask and I got filled at 93 because contracts were decreasing as as I enter, right? Not even waiting for that confirmation because I know this is just a setup I trust. It's a very solid setup. It's worked for me many times in the past. Something I often look for. Got the fill at 93. It said not full size, just because I wanted to wait and see if this order block would hold, but I was in enough size to where still a very solid play. Entered that 923 is when I called it out, right? So you see this on this candle here, 923 candle, Pacific time, right? Entered off this candle here, saw pretty much no drawdown, maybe a couple cents of drawdown. Immediately bounced back up and started scaling here at this 390.11 level, a little bit more off here. And then at this point, I only had about 25% of my position left, for runners, just in case that you did want to, push higher. But even in just this move from, 389.40 to 390.40 at this full dollar move, which is if you're playing ES, that's about 95 to 95 almost. So it's about a 10-point move, 9-point move on ES, dollar move on SPY. It's very good for how quick it was, right? Pretty much just a straight moonshot up. Gave us about 65% at the highest. Got most of my contracts out for about 50%. So just overall really nice trade. Rest of my runners I stopped out a little higher than break even. Once I saw this thing come back down, I saw that this was kind of the liquidity that this thing was targeting. Grabbed this liquidity and started falling, so there's no point in staying this in any longer. But all in all, a really high success rate trade there. Got this target to hit.